Welcome to the Sunday School lesson for June 9th of 2024. For those of you that are new, I teach Sunday School at Falmouth Baptist Church in Falmouth, Kentucky. And the materials that I use for the lesson are the Lifeway Sunday School materials, the Bible Studies for Life series. As always, I'd like to open with a word of prayer. So if you would bow with me, we'll have a word of prayer, then we'll get into the lesson. And dear Lord, we just thank you for allowing us to come together and gather virtually, Father. I just pray that during this time, your Holy Spirit would speak to our hearts, that you would guide us through this lesson. Lord, I lift up any prayer requests that's on the heart of anyone who's watching, and just turn that need over to you, and just pray for them to have peace and comfort during this time. Father, I also pray for those that have lost loved ones and those that are struggling with life, those that are going through difficulties. Again, just that they would turn to you for peace. Father, I especially lift up the lost and just pray that as your Holy Spirit speaks to them, that they would respond. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, the lesson this week, if you're following along in your Bible, we're reading out of the book of Genesis, chapter 9, verses 1 through 13. Again, Genesis 9, 1 through 13, a very familiar story, part of it having to do with Noah. And the title of the lesson is God's Promise of Preservation. The point of the lesson is God promised to preserve his creation. Question of the week is, what's the closest you've come to experiencing a natural disaster? That was really easy for me to answer because I've experienced a natural disaster. Town I live in Falmouth, Kentucky, back in 1997, we had a huge flood. Our town is at the confluence of two forks of the Licking River, the main fork and the south fork of the Licking River. And that year there was a lot of rainfall, unusually large amount. And where the two forks came in to form the main Licking River, which ultimately empties into the Ohio River, it flooded. And basically both of them came so far out of the banks, out of their banks, that they cut a current right through the middle of the town that I live in. And it was fierce enough that the flood level reached 52 feet, which is flood stage for the Ohio River at Cincinnati. Flood stage for Falmouth is less than 30 feet, I believe, if my memory serves me correct, something in 20 feet. But the current went right through town. It lifted up houses off the foundations. It lifted up barns on the outskirts of towns and picked them up and set them down in the middle of roads. So they lifted up houses off foundations and set them on top of cars. Someone said it looked like a wet tornado. And I said, well, I've done disaster relief. It looked like a hurricane had gone through our town. But it was just the force of water. And sadly, 5 people lost their lives. There was significant property damage. And there's still, you can still see the scars in town all these years later, vacant lots that FEMA bought that can never be built upon again, businesses that closed down or relocated, people that relocated and left town. So, I've been there, done that kind of a thing. And just here a few months ago, we had a hailstorm here in town that just really decimated a lot of roofs, a lot of damage to cars. Nobody was killed, but just a unusually large hailstorm that hit our town. And the background, for our lesson is, natural disasters plague our planet, whether it's floods or hail or tornadoes, hurricanes, just a whole host of things that plague our planets. But, in the aftermath of all those disasters, we can rebuild, we can move forward. I recall during our flood here in town, one of my fellow attorneys was really, really concerned about his office. He went a few days, he didn't eat. He was just concerned that his office, with all the documents and things were going through town. I finally sat down and we talked, and I said, look, you're alive. You can always rebuild. You lost money. We all lost money. We can make more money, but we're alive. We survived this. So, we can move forward, and we don't understand oftentimes, why when something happens. But, we can trust that God will not abandon his creation. And that's Genesis 6 through 9. As I say, it's the account of the flood. And, God saw the wickedness of humanity and determined to destroy the wickedness of humanity on earth. but Noah found favor with God, and God commanded Noah to build an ark, which would preserve Noah, his family, and living creatures. And after entering the ark, flood destroyed life on earth. And about a year later, as the waters receded, finally Noah gets to leave the ark and builds an altar to worship God. But before leaving the altar or the ark, God made a covenant with Noah. And that's what our lesson is about, that covenant that God made with Noah in Genesis chapter 9. So we'll start out reading again, Genesis 9, verses 1 through 13. God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Fear and terror of you will be in every living creature on the earth, every bird of the sky, every creature that crawls on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. They are placed under your authority. Every creature that lives and moves will be food for you. As I gave the green plants, I have given you everything." Next set of verses says, However, you must not eat meat with its lifeblood in it, and I will require a penalty for your lifeblood. I will require it from any animal and from any human. If someone murders a fellow human, I will require that person's life. Whoever sheds human blood, by humans his blood will be shed, for God made humans in his image. But you, be fruitful and multiply, spread out over the earth and multiply on it. The last set of verses. Then God said to Noah and his sons with him, "Understand that I am establishing my covenant with you and your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, birds, livestock, and all wildlife of the earth that are with you, all the animals of the earth that came out of the ark. I established my covenant with you that never again will every creature be wiped out by floodwaters. There will never again be a flood to destroy the earth." And God said, "This is a sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all future generations. I have placed my bow in the clouds, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth." So as I said, we're starting out there. The flood has occurred, and now before Noah leaves the ark, it says, God blessed Noah and his sons. God blessed Noah just as he had blessed Adam and Eve. And if you were with us last week, we talked about how God blessed the first man and some of God's covenant with Adam and so forth. So now, he blessed Noah and his sons. Adam had violated that first covenant through his sin, the Adamic covenant. Now there's the Noah covenant. And it says, God makes a new covenant with Noah and his descendants. And they would now be the ones through whom God would bless humanity. Ultimately, if you look at the lineage of Jesus Christ, it goes back to Noah. We see that in Luke 3, chapter 3, 23 through 32. Ultimately, God's blessing of the Messiah would come through Noah's line. And he says, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." Before the flood, God had told Noah that he would preserve humanity. He told him that, it was his intention to kill all the creatures, but he would repopulate the earth. And now God commands Noah and his sons to be fruitful and multiply, much as he had done with Adam in his first covenant. In verse 2, God reaffirms man's dominion over the animal kingdom. But the relationship is going to change. When God gave Adam and Eve dominion over the animals, it was a harmonious relationship between mankind and the animals. But now things are changing because of sin that has entered the world. It says, instead of living in harmony, he says, there will be fear and terror between man and animal. But God, again, is the one who determines that relationship, who gives mankind that dominion. It is he who sets that up. And it is God who places the animal under the dominion of man once again. Verse 3 then also shows another significant difference between God's covenants with Adam and his covenant with man. In the Adamic covenant, God gave Adam and Eve, every seed-bearing plant and the fruit of every seed-bearing tree for food. God again blesses Noah and his family with provision, but now, after placing the animals under Noah's authority, he allows the animals to be provided as food. But he does have a restriction on that. Much as when Adam was given every plant, he was told there was one restriction: do not eat from the tree of knowledge. Here, God says, don't eat animal with still having their life blood in them. But God here is the first time that we have God approving eating meat. We don't know if people ate meat before this. They may well have in violation of his covenant. But now God expressly gives permission for man to eat meat. But again, he is the source of the blessing. But he says, don't eat it with its life blood in it. There is that restriction when we get over into verse 4. So the animal blood has to be drained from animals before humans eat them. We don't eat the raw meat of a freshly killed animal. It still has its life blood in it. The blood is to be drained. I know some people won't eat a rare steak, or they say, oh, it's blood coming out of it. It's not blood coming out of steaks. It's an enzyme. So don't make that distinction that you think, oh, it's a bloody steak. That's in violation of God's law. It's not blood. It's an enzyme that looks like blood, but it's not blood. But God says, don't do that. But then he also goes into the aspect of taking a human life. God provides there in verse 5, a penalty for the taking of human life. Again, part of his covenant. 3 times he uses a phrase, I will require, emphasizing that there will be an accounting to God for anyone that takes a human life. He says, I will require a penalty for your lifeblood. So we move from the lifeblood of animals to the lifeblood of man, humanity. And he says, it's also interesting, he says the penalty is for any animal and for many humans. So the penalty applies to both animal and mankind. Again, it's just the sacredness of human life requires that there is a penalty if life is taken, if human life is taken. And he says, if someone murders a fellow human, sometimes that's translated as if someone murders his brother, he says, I will require that person's life. God imposes a penalty. Whoever sheds human blood, the punishment applies to anyone who intentionally takes a human life. He says, by humans, his blood will be shed. So, again, kind of a distinction. And this verse is often, when the debate about capital punishment comes up, this verse is also often used to justify capital punishment, the death penalty, because it says, whoever takes human life by human hands, his life will be taken. So here is often, considered the basis for mankind taking someone's life as punishment, as God directs, the punishment for murder. And then he says, God made human in his image. Last week we talked about mankind being made in God's image, and that there's nothing in the Bible that, expressly defines what that image is. But the idea that man is set apart, unlike any other animals, is set apart from them and something unique, and there's a unique relationship with God. And he says, we are made in God's image, and God is the one who gives life. We are set apart from all the other animals and all the other creation, in fact. And God says, your life is special. Again, sets us apart. I'm sorry, but the idea of man being made in God's image, it's an affront to God to kill what is made in his image. Disregarding human life is an insult to God. The one who gives life. We are set aside from all other creatures. And when someone takes a human life, as I said, it's an insult of God to God, because we're taking the life of someone created in his image. In verse 7, God then refocuses back to his purpose for Noah and his family. He sort of kind of repeats verse 1, talks about be fruitful and multiply. And then we get into the last set of verses that tells us, about God's covenant is not with just humanity, but with all creation, that God will not destroy in this manner again. In verses 9 and 10, he says, I'm establishing. The Hebrew word for establishing means I will set up, or I will restore my covenant, God's promise. He says, I am establishing my promises with you, your descendants, and every living creature. God's covenant is unconditional. He will fulfill his promise. There's nothing that we have to do on our part for God to fulfill this promise that he's making. In verse 11, that promise is, I will never again. God said, never again will I. God first spoke to Noah, and he told Noah, when he first spoke to him, it was to inform Noah of his intention to destroy every living thing on the earth, except for Noah and his family and the animals, the creatures that went on the ark. Now he's giving an unconditional promise to Noah to never do this again by flood. There's no problem. He's not making a promise that he will never destroy the earth. God is only promising that it will not be by flood waters. In fact, 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 10 through 12 talks about that God will destroy the earth by fire. So God in this passage doesn't say he will never destroy the earth. He just says, I'll never destroy it again by flood waters. And he says, this will be a sign of my covenant. Covenants, when they were made, these promises, contracts that were made, often included signs, a token, something to show and remind people of the covenant. He says, I'm going to give you a sign. He says, it's a covenant, of my covenant for all future generations. So this covenant that God has made with Noah, not to destroy the earth by floodwaters, it's in effect for as long as human and animal life exists on the earth. He says, I will set my bow, the rainbow, confirms God's covenant. And that rainbow is to be a reminder for us. It's a reminder of the flood and what led to God wiping out life. And then it's also a reminder of God's covenant with the earth. The rainbow is a reminder of both God's judgment on sin and also his mercy in the midst of judgment. His mercy delivering Noah and his family and the animals in the ark. God reminds us that there will be a time of judgment. There will be times of difficulty. But in the midst of it all, there is always God's mercy. And that kind of takes us back to our opening, idea about natural disasters, that it's a reminder to us that God will not abandon his creation, no matter what we do. The title of our lesson is God's Promise of Preservation. God will preserve his creation. And this is a reminder of us, the rainbow that's set in the sky, that he will never destroy again by the flood waters. Obviously, there will be the second coming. That will be a whole different story. But until that time, he is not going to wipe us out. We'll go through all kinds of disasters in the meantime, but in the midst of all them, God is still there to provide his mercy. Sort of like I told my friend back when we had our flood, we didn't lose our lives. We both had our businesses in the middle of downtown were both damaged and damaged severely. We both lost a lot of money. We had a lot to clean up and a lot of mess to go through, but we were still alive. And God continued to bless us in the years afterward and continues to bless me. So even though we go through natural disasters, even though things are going on all around us that we don't understand, when we see that rainbow in the sky, we can be reminded that God is there, that he does preserve us. He has mercy upon us regardless of what we've done. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up there. I'm sorry I'm a little discombobulated today. Had some sickness in the family, had some real time crunches to try to even get this together. But Lord willing, I'll be back next Sunday with a lesson. And until then, just remember God's promise, his promise to preserve us, to be there for us, to have mercy for us. So Lord willing, I'll see you next week. Have a blessed week.